A judge has struck down the Trump administration's plan to add a citizenship question to the 2020 census. As a compromise, the census will include the Trump administration's question, "Are you a hottie?"
Criticism about Chinese law by Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is causing tension between the two countries. Things are so tense that each country wrote the other a very sternly worded thank you note.
President Trump called off the banquet of fast food I'm sorry, that's a misread there. President Trump called the banquet of fast food he provided for the Clemson football team, quote, "great American food." You know it's great American food if it causes great American diabetes.
Senator Lindsey Graham says he's hell-bent on replacing Ruth Bader Ginsburg with a conservative, just like he's hell-bent on replacing any condiment that's spicier than mayonnaise.
Maroon 5, Travis Scott, and Big Boy will be taking the stage at Super Bowl 53. Which one wears the cowboy hat? Asked confused uncles.
D.C. area restaurants.
And Chelsea.
D.C. area restaurants are offering free meals to government employees and families affected by the shutdown. In solidarity, Ivanka asked her waiter to bring the less expensive bottle of Cristal.
And finally, my favorite joke of the day. Taylor Hanson of the 90s band Hanson announced the birth of his 6th child. His kids don't call him Dad. They call him Pop.
Oh, God.
The Trump Report starts now.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
So from Hanson right into Public Enemy, the way that the world should work. That was the 90s for you. Everybody was welcome in the musical tent. Welcome to the Trump Report on a slightly delayed time on a very damp afternoon here in Los Angeles. I'm Christian Bladt, joined as always by Chelsea Galicia.
Hello.
And on the other side of the desk, Tamra Brown.
Howdy.
And making his triumphant return to this panel, Scott?
Yes,
is that? Yeah, Scott.
my name.
It says Scott Moore here? Yeah.
Yep.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you guys, too.
Thank you for being back, and thank you to everyone who's watching. There's a lot to talk about, but what a great place to start with the ongoing government shutdown. I believe we're in day 25 or 35, 105. You know, it won't matter because it'll probably go on that long. You know, when we talked about this last week, we I put out the idea that I don't know how much everyday Americans are impacted by it just yet, except, of course, for those who are going to the airport. Scott, because you haven't been here in a while, I'm going to be very sexist and start with you. Your thoughts on the shutdown, where we are, and how long you think it'll be before it might be over?
I think you're right at the fact that I know a lot of people that are traveling now that are starting to feel the effects of TSA now because a lot of people are calling in sick. It's now double the normal days. And you saw in Atlanta, one of the busiest airports in the country, 6 lanes had to be shut down yesterday. So we're starting to see the effect for air travel. But then as you start moving down the line, you know, your food inspections are not going to be as thorough anymore because you have a lot of people not working. Even weather, you have a lot of people from National Weather Service that are also not working right now during the furlough. So when you're thinking about winter storms and everything, yes, you have critical people that are still on, but you have a lot of the support staff and people that handle the day-to-day stuff in these places that are not working. So, you know, it's very ironic when Trump is saying that we need to have the wall, but then you're not paying the very people that are protecting you, like the Secret Service, like, you know, the TSA agents that are looking for things in ports, because airports are ports, and those are the main gateway for most people coming into this country anyways, are through airports.
And today is the first day that the Coast Guard is not.
And the Coast Guard, yeah, all the ones that you're talking about that really do defend and protect our country on an everyday basis are now being affected. And you talk about, you know, drugs, and a lot of the drugs come in from Canada as well. So it's quite ironic. And
we don't need people protecting us. We need a barrier.
I know, exactly. It's just, of course, we need just a taller wall. But it's just ironic to think that he could have framed this in a much different way to start with and just said, hey, look, we've had the lowest illegal immigrant crossings in 50 years that he could have laid credit to. He could have said, hey, we're going to be like he kept saying, it doesn't have to be a wall. You can call it whatever you want. He could have said the same thing, like, hey, we're doing more technology. That's going to be even better. And we're going to do barriers. You can call it the wall. You can call it whatever. He could have done that to start with. And his 20% of people that are going to follow him no matter what would have been fine with it. But instead, he decided to go this tack. And I don't think he realized, because he's never had people say no to him before, of how difficult this was going to be once the Democrats took over in the House, and that he thought that people were just going to bend to his will because he's used to that, and seeing that they're not, is to his own detriment now, because as we still see, the polls show that Republicans are being blamed, and especially him, for this shutdown. And the longer it goes, the worse it is for him and for Republicans.
Yes, the latest polling says 53% of Americans blame Trump for the shutdown, 29% blame the Democrats, 13% blame both equally, and 4% have no opinion. I mean, I was encouraged by that 4% with no opinion, because I actually thought that was going to be like 45%. Yeah, right. So I was like, it's only 4, you know, because you ask enough people anything, most people are going to be like, yeah, I don't really follow that. So Tamra, where do you think this goes? Basically, Trump's like, well, I'm not backing down, and there's very little benefit for Pelosi and Schumer to really give in, because, well, the polling is on their side, but also it's like, yeah, I mean, you know, we're new. We're well, not Schumer, but it's like, look, I just got my gavel back. Well, I can't be giving up right away.
I guess it's a staring contest until Trump can figure out how to phrase, like, rather than say barrier instead of wall, what his phrasing is going to be when he decides to compromise. Because, of course, he's not going to just agree to reopen government without a wall, but he will say, like, if we... I don't know. There's going to be some sort of way that he can spin to his base that he won, even though we're not like agreeing to fund the wall. So
yeah,
whenever that exact verbiage is set in place, then the shutdown will take place. When? I don't know. We should all take a bet here on the Trump Report. Let's all toss our coins in the middle.
Maybe he could take the suggestion from Iowa Representative Steve King, who thinks that at the southern border we should just have a giant white sheet. You know, I think that would keep people out. Look, there's a lot of ways that you can claim
just a barrier of burning crosses. Right. He's fine with that.
Well, I don't know. Chelsea,
I mean, that would keep people out, I suppose.
Yeah, that's true. That would definitely keep people out. And Chelsea, a senior Trump official, did pen an anonymous essay saying, quote, "Wasteful government agencies are better off without these furloughed workers who are lazy and unaccountable and should never be brought back." I'm sure you agree with that, right? That's what you think.
You know me so well.
I figured.
2+ years we've been at this, and you've got me right on the nose. I mean, I actually, thinking the opposite. I think that the longer things go, the more we will all feel it, even though we're not maybe one of the 800,000 people who are government workers, but slowly we will feel it all. Like, I'm waiting for some IPOs. Well, those are not going to happen because the SEC is not working at full capacity.
Wait a minute. Does that mean I could get away with insider trading right now? I don't have any money, but hypothetically.
It'll be delayed.
Okay.
They'll eventually.
Hey.
But
right. I heard somebody on radio say, "Can I curse today because there's no FCC to find me?"
That's a great fucking point.
You can, but then then think about tomorrow when they eventually do come back, and then not tomorrow.
I doubt.
Tomorrow in quotes.
Yeah.
Even though the administration has said that the IRS will be able to, still process refunds, I doubt that is accurate or fully accurate. So I think as more time goes on, more of us are going to feel it in some way, and we'll have the opposite reaction. We will realize how crucial these roles are for the functioning of our society, and I think I agree with Scott. It'll just deteriorate the support for Republicans and Trump. I don't know at which point McConnell feels any responsibility for this at all, and he does something. I don't know. Is this the first time that Congress will work together and leave the president out of it and reopen the government? Maybe Republicans will say, yes, sure, we want the wall, but we have to reopen government first, which I guess would be a concession to Democrats, which is why Democrats today didn't show up to the White House to talk to Republicans, because it's like, no, first you open, then we talk, whereas Republicans are saying, first we talk, make a deal, and then we reopen. So I don't think this is looking good for Republicans, and I'm trying to, last week I spent more time than I was comfortable on Fox News trying to listen for the other side. I haven't been able to do that in the last couple of days for like more than a second. So
No, me either.
I'm not really sure, besides this really is a crisis and we must deal with it now. This is not manufactured. Ask the people of the family members who have been killed if this is, not a manufactured crisis. Trump needs to stick to his, I was going to say guns, but it should maybe be more. He needs to stick to his walls on this. And we'll just keep going.
I was like, the walls are closing in on him and the Republicans.
If only there were a wall to actually close in. So what you mentioned that the Democrats didn't show up. I actually thought that they didn't show up because they didn't want cold leftover Wendy's.
That's what I was going to say. They don't want leftover hamburgers and soggy fries.
So see, we were on the same wavelength there.
Yeah.
But obviously, I think that sort of the devil's advocate part of this is that there are people who legitimately try to make the point. It's like, okay, but everyone was for some kind of barrier wall in the past, and now they're not for it because it's Trump who wants it. But my understanding is, and I'll pitch the question, is that what they were for is what's already been built. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but Scott, you seem to think that that's what people were in favor of, the bits of wall that are currently there?
No, and the wall, the technology, or the barriers, should say, because it's not a wall, but the barriers, the fencing, the technology, the hiring more, what are I'm totally blanking on their names now.
Border Patrol.
Border Patrol, thank you.
But we were also for the price tag that came with back then, which was, as I understand it, less than a billion.
Yes, back then. And part of the problem is they're trying to frame it as Democrats want open borders, which of course is a complete and utter lie. And we don't just have open borders in the South already. The point is that he's asking for a wall, which we all know is done out of an ego. And we've talked about this going back to 2016. The wall's never going to happen in the form that he says it is. And he's backtracked and lied consistently, going back to saying Mexico's going to pay for it.
Now he's saying he never meant that it was going to be an entire length of
and that he never meant that Mexico was actually going to pay for it.
Of course he meant that, he said it'll be a beautiful concrete wall. And of course he said that Mexico was going to pay for it instead of, hey, Mexico's already paid for it because of this deal they signed. So
yeah, I think that they're trying to twist because they're desperate now, saying that all of a sudden people were it's sort of the thing with John Kerry when they used to be like, he was for it before he was against it and things like that when you do it in a campaign. But the problem is you could also play on a loop Donald Trump saying Mexico's paying for it, that he's happy to own the shutdown, that he's going to take responsibility for that, instead of now they're trying to spin it back on the Democrats, and they just can't really make that work because Democrats have not been for a wall the way that Donald Trump is talking about. And the point is they already had money set aside for it, and Republicans had signed, and that's part of the problem. Republicans had owned both houses before Christmas and could have signed off on it, but then Donald Trump changed his mind at the last minute, and that put Mitch McConnell in an untenable place too, because I can't stand the man. I think he's evil and horrible, but if he backs down and does it, I know, right? I know. That's
Thank you for saying what we were all thinking,
and those jowls
Tamra.
are so incredibly, I can barely, they're irresistible. But the problem is he is in a bad place, because if he backs down and they sign something that Trump's going to veto, then it makes those Republicans look bad. And he knows he's up for re-election next year. He knows a lot of fellow Republicans are up for re-election next year, and that's coming sooner than they think. And they know that if they do, that 20% that's so passionate about Donald Trump is going to go out and vote for a primary opponent against even him. And even if that position, senator stays Republican in Kentucky, as it obviously would, that he could be voted out. So I think he's just in a bad place, and it all started because of Donald Trump. And we can see what just a terrible negotiator is, because we're now in the longest government shutdown ever.
My question is that with the wall that does exist, that was put into place however long ago, why is that barrier useful? And Democrats agreed that, everybody was in agreement that was, like, what is the structure? Does anybody know?
It's different at different places.
Different at different places, yeah.
Right.
And also the price tag was different. And look, of course there's certain politics in there,
Well, I'm just trying to defend when a Republican says Democrats were for barriers when it wasn't coming from Trump.
When it would cost less than $1 billion.
Well, but then the price, it's not
makes a big
solely
difference.
the price tag that's
a huge...
No, I don't know that you can say that Democrats are usually afraid to spend money. I understand what your point is, Tamra. That I think that.
So let's say Trump brings the price tag down, then we're gonna say like, all right, we'll sign off on
My
it.
understanding is
It's
they
the
were willing
point.
to give him $1 billion,
Yeah.
like just right out of the
Right,
gate. Like,
for-
here's $1 billion, you sort it out from there. Mexico can pay for it. Look, if you take Justin Trudeau's lunch money, he's going to give you $1 billion. I guarantee. It's not going to be that hard to get money out of him. I know it's
Right.
not on his border, but you can get him to. You could easily bully that guy into giving you some money. That's really what you just have to do. You know, you just have to go and who else can you get to give you some money? So, and Storage Yard Resident asked us last week, what happened to the Kickstarter that people started to build the
They
war?
got their money back.
Yes.
Yeah, well, they could start it back up again. That's the point I'm trying to make there. So I think that the fundamental thing that we're all in agreement in is that no one feels like they can blink in this situation. And I don't think it'll be Pelosi. I don't think it'll be Trump. I do think you'll get somebody that gets a little jumpy in the Senate that just really
course.
feels like they need to pressure McConnell.
Of course.
And I don't know what it'll take to actually convince him. I mean, if somehow you find out that filterless cigarettes are mandated by the federal government, and then he would have to smoke filtered, then that would probably get him to sign something. But I don't know what it would take. But he seems like the obvious candidate for someone who's going to cave.
He kind of has to, because he's the one that's holding it up. Because if he said we're going to put something together and send it to the president, then the Senate would vote on it, because obviously the House has already voted on it. You already had 8 Republicans that voted with the Democrats in the House. I think what it's going to take some more of those conservative Senate Republicans, because you already have the Susan Collins, and you have the Cory Gardners who are up for re-election in a very blue state next year, and you have Lisa Murkowski, who has a lot of federal workers that work in Alaska, who's always kind of on the buck. But if you start getting some more really conservative Senate Republicans, and you start having 5, 6, 7 Senate Republicans saying we've got to reopen the government, that's where Mitch McConnell's going to have to start blinking, especially if it's people from the South, or I'm waiting to see what Martha McSally says as the junior Republican senator now of Arizona, border state. If you start having people like that, then I think it's going to be the point where they're going to have to fold, because you're going to get to a point where enough people are going to be without jobs that's going to outweigh this fake emergency that Trump keeps saying, which we have the facts to back up that's not even the case. So.
I mean, I one other possibility is that in the background, Trump is creating some kind of report from, I don't know if it was Border Patrol or whoever he cited as saying they were the ones that wanted the wall. So he's going to come out with a report saying they have changed their mind. Border Patrol has changed their mind. They don't want a wall. They want like fairy dust or whatever it is. And so he's going to say that it was them who changed their mind. So therefore he no longer supports or needs a wall, because I don't know what the correct agency is. I'm just saying it's Border Patrol, because they no longer see that it's necessary. So I think that might be how he can back off of this position and save face by blaming somebody else that they no longer want.
And maybe
a wall.
he still will, like you were saying earlier,
Right.
take credit for the lowest immigration. Maybe it'll occur to him that he can start going at that angle.
And for Mitch McConnell, you do sort of get the benefit. You're talking about he's going to run for re-election. It's like, hey, who stopped that government shutdown? Your boy Mitch, come on. Look at me right here. I'm your guy. Obviously, you should look out for me.
How short are our memories?
Pretty short.
Goldfish,
Yeah, it's true, because they'll forget all about it if it ends soon by the time next year rolls around anyway. So
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't even remember what we're talking about now, so that'll make that point. One of the things that it might not be the most newsworthy thing to discuss, but I felt like it would be of interest to Chelsea. We did make a joke about it at the top of the show. That
Hanson again.
Yes, obviously. In absence of the furloughed White House kitchen staff, President Trump opened his wallet so that the championship Clemson Tigers could have, quote, many French fries. And it's easy to cast aspersions on it. I'm going to assume a lot of college kids who play football are like, great, I was going to probably have 4 cheeseburgers today anyway. Now I'm going to have 6. This is great.
for free.
Well, just because, I mean, if you've ever known anybody who plays sports at that level, they eat a lot.
And a college student that doesn't have a lot of money, and like, great, now I have free
it's like,
cheeseburgers on top
I'm
of
going to
it.
just take this whole tray of Wendy's. But,
Hey, Trump, you got a microwave back there?
that's a great question. So, Chelsea, what do you think about serving children fast food in the White House on very nice silver platters.
Yes.
Apparently, the silver platter people are essential government employees.
One of my
whoever
favorite joke tweets about it was like, McDonald's served on a silver platter. Could there be a better representation of Trump in general?
Right, that was going to say, of this presidency, it's like, that reflects the presidency so
Yes.
well.
And Juliet in the booth
fast
is
food
giving us
presidency.
some photos of, you see some of the Clemson Tigers going around. They're getting pictures. The one that I saw, I think, was a kid. He had like 4 of them stacked high. He was very excited.
It's just gross. Gross. There's going to be a documentary coming out soon. I actually think it's coming out this weekend called Game Changers. And it's about professional athletes that have gone vegan, and it shows what it's done to their bodies and their lives. And so it'll be an interesting juxtaposition if that takes off. I
Improved
know
or
that
declined?
Christian...
Yeah, I'm wondering what's.
Well, I believe that veganism, or at least vegetarianism, or moving in that direction, is going to become. I mean, I know it's a big trend in LA, but you know, it's what starts in LA tends to move throughout the rest of the country. I know Christian's really
No,
excited
I was just
about
thinking
that.
about something. Yeah.
And so it will be, hopefully soon it'll be like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that the, White House served,
Well, here's the
sad
thing: if
cheeseburgers
Trump's
or-
going to buy food, it's going to be food he's going to want to eat.
That's exactly what we were talking about, yes.
That's the most obvious
It was
thing
about
right there.
him.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, if he's paying for it, which
Right.
look, he didn't have to pay for the food. He I mean, he could have. He definitely look. Let's go back to Justin Trudeau. You could have told him you need to pay for this lunch for the Clemson Tigers. He would have. I guarantee he would have. You could get him. You could get that guy to do anything. But so
It would have been coffee from Tim Hortons.
And it was
though.
cold fast food,
I know.
because there's no way that
the-
they could have kept it all warm.
Right.
It's so
It's
extra
co-
gross.
Yes.
I mean,
That's what
anyone
the
who's
soggy
ever had
fries.
fast food deliver knows that it stays warm for a really long time. It never shows up cold. I don't know what you're talking about, Chelsea. But look. Definitely off topic, but to your point about veganism, what I'll say is this was a few years ago. I saw Paul McCartney perform, and he was 73. He played almost 3 hours, and he's been vegan for, 30, 40 years. So you're like, huh, well, maybe there's something to be said for that. Not for me, but for other people. So athletes, if you care about the shape you're in, maybe you should watch Chelsea's documentary.
When you see
I
Bill
wish
Clinton.
I could have credit for creating the documentary.
No.
Well,
the one
I
you
mean,
recommended.
yeah.
but, like speaking
Game
of
changers.
someone who was like Donald Trump, which we always talk about.
Wait,
Bill
someone is
Clinton,
like Donald Trump?
in the sense that Bill
good
Clinton
point.
was
Yep.
very similar as far as the womanizing, but also with the fast food love. When you go back to '92, remember it was always about McDonald's and everything else, and now you see him having switched
Yeah.
over to a vegan diet, and also in his early 70s,
There-
and is in better shape than he was 25 years ago. So there is something to be said about
What a
that.
quaint time
Not
that
for me,
is
though.
when we could think of Bill Clinton just as the guy who ate a lot of fast food.
You're right.
Like when that was the joke about him. Like there's
Yeah.
a Saturday Night Live sketch
Yes,
from '93
with Phil Hartman, and he's
and
running.
he's greeting people at McDonald's,
As he's
but he only
running.
went in there so he could steal food
Yeah.
off of their trays and just go around and eat it. So you know what? They have a lot in common. You're absolutely right, and so that's something to think about. So Chelsea, what should they have served? What should someone have opened their credit card and charged for these children to eat?
Well, if they wanted to stick with kind of fast food, they could have done Veggie Grill and gave them all Beyond Meat sausages in go to Veggie Grill and try it. I'm sure even Felix will love it.
I mean, if you saw the things my 3-year-old son eats, probably. I mean, I don't know.
Sure, he has a more refined palate than our president.
Yeah, I think so. He doesn't like KFC, so that's a good start right there. But you know what? I feel like actually there are a lot of overlap
Some
in
Impossible
their.
Burgers. Have you been to the counter?
I've been to the counter, yes.
Okay, ask for the Impossible Burger at the.
You know what's impossible is me asking for that. Am I right? No. Okay.
No, at the Consumer Electronics show in Vegas, the 2.0 Impossible Burger won the convention.
I've had the Impossible. I wasn't quite.
Oh.
It's good. It was good, but as for someone who eats meat, I could tell the difference
Okay,
still,
but
even though
there's
it was good.
there's a 2.0 version
I'll have to try it.
coming out now, so stay
Okay.
tuned.
All right. Well,
That's what he should have served.
Well,
That's what he should have
I
said.
would have gone beyond that, and which would have given more PR and said, I'm going to order from local small business, mom and pop restaurants in DC that are hurting because the government shut down and people aren't going there, and give an
Scott for the
opportunity
win.
and give opportunities of different types of food, not just stuck to fast food, but say here's some fruit and here's this bakery and here's this local
or even that
sandwich shop.
Even if
or
he'd been like,
whatever.
I feel like they want hamburgers, and you still could have your
Right, from the
idea
local,
still works,
right? And you just have a
Good idea.
bunch of different food though. You could have had hamburgers, but you could have also had salad and fruit and desserts and bakeries and just different types of food of just a general mix of food from the local small businesses that are being hurt because of the government shutdown.
DC had great local little. I mean, when I was there, I did not find many, but of course,
not right near the
right-
White House,
right, but in
there's
the area,
there's plenty of
lots
great
of-
neighborhoods.
I believe
that
there's
have
a little restaurant called the Red Hen. I feel like Chuck and Nancy should have inserted themselves into the situation and only ordered from the
Yes.
local restaurants
Yeah.
that kicked Republicans out of their.
But that would have been a great one up for him again to be like, here you go. I'm paying with my own money
So
to
smart.
benefit these small businesses that are being hurt by our government being shut down next to the Democrats. And he could have done a whole thing, and I'm helping
and
out.
he would have said, if
Clemson.
I had, I saved these burgers
Yeah.
from being manufactured in Mexico.
Yeah.
Now, see, that's a great point. Well,
They're all
let us,
USAA made. Yeah.
let us know what you think, whether you're watching live in the chat. And our Scott Brown wants to know, why couldn't they just have a regular meal? Why try to be so gimmicky? And by gimmicky, I
That's
mean
a regular meal to Trump, I
I mean,
think.
douche.
It is a regular
And by the way,
meal.
the Demonot points out, can't believe Trump forgot to get Chick-fil-A. You know what? I bet that he doesn't like that because it's
No.
chicken and it's not beef. Although he loves KFC. That's what it is. He's loyal to KFC. He would never do that to the Colonel.
I think he prefers the more processed. Isn't Chick-fil-A like a little bit?
It's
more
like In-N-Out
locally
Burger where it's a
sourced,
little bit better cuts of meat.
Yeah.
But Trump is definitely in the corner with the Colonel, who
He's
no
a
doubt
pink
was a
slime
great
kinda
American.
guy.
Yeah.
But I would say the only reason why it was sort of gimmicky or not is because, truthfully, a lot of the kitchen staff has been furloughed. You do still have certain people that are going to take care of the family in the personal quarters there, but you don't have the big staff that's able to put on banquets right now because a lot of those people are considered non-essential. So you don't have the type of staff to be able to come in now. Sure, could you have hired and outsourced it?
Probably not.
Yeah.
A local catering company is what you're talking about, but that's
Yeah.
just because you're being a politician over there. We only have a little bit of time left because we did get off to a late start. Sorry. President Trump's Attorney General nominee, William Barr, says that Robert Mueller, why am I having trouble all of a sudden? Mueller should be allowed to continue his investigation. I'm going to start
I think
with
he
you.
says Bob.
Well, yeah, because he's tied with him. You're right.
Yeah.
So I should call Bill Barr Bill, and he's referring to Bob Mueller.
Bill and Bob.
They should definitely be allowed to continue his investigation. Scott, does that surprise you? And this is a great opportunity after not seeing you for 6 weeks to let us know where the impeachment clock is. So two-part question for you.
Well, I would say it doesn't surprise me because I always kind of find the grilling in the Senate just kind of a lot of theatrics because, of course, people are always going to say the right thing. Like when you're going to a job interview, they're not going to say, oh, I plan to shut it down and I planned day one to get rid of Mueller, even though we're good friends because this is such a witch hunt and blah, blah, blah. So, of course, people are always going to be on their best behavior. They're always going to try to answer to the best they can so they look good, especially when they're on national TV. That said, of course, he's not going to want to come in off the bat and say he's going to get rid of them or get rid of Mueller and his team. But he also phrased it in such a way where he didn't quite say he never would. It was more of it shouldn't happen. But it didn't say for him.
It's more like, I don't have plans to do that.
But it was exactly. It was a little more vague than directly saying, oh, no, I would never shut it down. So it was vague, but came across as like, oh, sure, of course I wouldn't. I still firmly believe, going back to 2016, that I'll be amazed to see if Trump does finish this year. I've said that from the beginning. I thought 2019 was going to be the year that he... And I said beyond impeachment, I should, like he said with the wall, I should say resignation is always on the table as well. So I didn't refer to just impeachment. I'm also meant if he was going to resign, because I still do believe if it comes down to where he can save himself and his family, he would rather be out than have to face the fact that as soon as he gets out of office that he would be potentially going to prison or his kids or anything else. So I've always firmly believed that I think it would be hard pressed for him to finish, let alone run again, because
He's
I
used to
see
that.
no, yeah, I see no chance that he can win a re-election at this point. it would be very, very unlikely. But, you know.
Oh, I know Christian has a strong reaction to that.
Yeah.
Well, I do, but I wanted to give both Tamra and Chelsea a chance to sort of weigh in on those thoughts about Bill Barr and Bob Mueller.
It sounds like Barbara Bush, like Barr.
Well, it also sounds like there's a comedian named Bill Burr, so I'm trying to not say that.
Yeah.
Do you think that the Mueller investigation, Tamara, will get to be completed? And will they ever be done? They're just keep finding more and more stuff. That,
it's feeling real. I feel like it's wrapping up. Is what it feels like to me. And Wolf Blitzer, I think it feels like it's coming to a.
But what does Anderson Cooper think?
And he comes on a lot later than when I'm tuning in.
Yeah, that's fair.
I kind of like this Bill Barr right now. He was saying all the right things that I'm like, I think. Yeah, that makes. He seems like a straight shooter. I like the cut of his jib, and but I suspect that okay, maybe he will do a 180 and actually play for Team Trump. But he also, I feel like he's just got I feel like Trump's already just it's agitating him every time. Every time Barr says, this investigation is important and this information needs to come out and things like that. And Trump's just itching to start tweeting, and he's like, I can't yet. And so I feel like he's a nominee right now. Should he become the actual attorney general? I feel like it will be very short-lived. He's going to get frustrated. Anybody who actually has any sort of competence resigns, almost immediately. And
well, I can think of I would say General Kelly, and then it's hard to think of a lot of people that would fit that bill. But and so,
I'm just saying, if he's in there, it's probably not going to be.
Well, he's been in there before, so I think that's the one thing that's going for him, being able to have it again because he was there in the 90s. But yeah,
but then he'll also know immediately, oh no, this is not a good situation. Chelsea, what do you think about Billy Barr?
I am in the same train as Tamra as far as being impressed by how he answered questions today, appeared to be a straight shooter, appeared to say things like this investigation is not a witch hunt and should go forward. So he was willing to say things that sound very good. Although I wonder if Trump, instead of being agitated, is thinking, oh, this guy is playing it really well. He's saying everything that they want to hear so that they'll vote for him. But then when he's my guy, he will do as I say. But I think that might be another delusion on Trump's part, to believe that this guy will be loyal to him. I don't know. I don't know actually enough about Barr himself to feel like I can say that what he's doing or what he did today was theatrical and putting on a show and just saying all the right things, compared to what his history might suggest that he stands for. So
it's hard. I feel like I'm jaded because I feel like they're always going to come in their best for an interview, and they want to appease because they need Democrat support too, and that they're going to come in and say all the right things. But I think from his past, by making his comments about the investigation when he was private citizen Bill Barr, lends me to believe that perhaps he would feel an obligation because Trump picked him. Not saying he would or not, but his answers were still enough to where it's like, okay, you're not forthright saying I will never do this or that. It was more of the vague kind of direction, but
then
I hope for the right thing.
Buzzwords like transparency. I am for transparency, and so this, that, and the other. So I have no idea, actually. It's a toss-up for me.
It's hard. But like you said, I think, and like you said, Tamara, I think he's far enough along now to where Mueller is that his stuff is getting close enough to being done. But we have no idea. We've heard this in the past, too. Oh, it's wrapping up soon. We know the grand jury was extended another 6 months the other week. So if you're extending them for another 6 months, are you really that close to being done? And how much is really there. So none of us really know. We always like to speculate because wasn't Giuliani last year saying, oh, it'll be done in September. It'll be done in 3 weeks. Nobody really knows.
That's how you knew it wasn't going to be done.
So, of course, if they're saying that, it's not going to be. But we really don't know. But we think it's getting closer because Rod Rosenstein said that he would probably step down once Barr gets confirmed, which would lend itself to also think he must know that it's getting close because he wouldn't leave while it's still ongoing.
Do you think that when Trump allowed the government to be shut down, do you think he assumed that included the Mueller investigation and that was actually why he did it?
Well,
because
honestly,
if that had done it, that would have been, well, that's genius. Just never reopen the government.
Well, the horrible thing was I did kind of think that it was a good distraction from the Democrats being able to start investigations against him, because he figured, oh, if I can keep distracting them and keep this in the news, then it's taking longer for them to start focusing on me and with their other investigations and their subpoena power. So the jaded me thought he did kind of do this as a way to be able to stop Democrats from pursuing him in these investigations, which it really doesn't, but at the same time it takes the focus off. So I did actually have that thought too.
And
for some degree.
all along, it seems that he's wanted to cause the disruption or the deterioration of these agencies from within. And so this is another way to lose morale, lose people, and destroy the agencies from within. So I don't think he thinks that this is all bad. In fact, I think it's in probably helping him accomplish some of his little lesser known objectives.
Right.
In our final 2 minutes here, to the point that Chelsea made earlier, yes, when Scott said that he doesn't foresee Donald Trump being able to be reelected, the only way to possibly be convinced about how possible that is to look at the announced and likely field of Democrats. I'll tick off the names, and I want each of you to pick one that you sincerely, inside your heart, feel has a really good chance of becoming president. Elizabeth Warren, Julian Castro, Kamala Harris, Tulsi Gabbard, Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, and Beto O'Rourke. I'll start with you, Scott.
I would have to say Kamala Harris, and as much as I don't want to say Biden because I feel like he's the old guard, those two, and then followed by O'Rourke, and then you can go down the list from there.
Okay. And your number one was...
I would say Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we have the number one there. And what do you think, Tamra?
Definitely Joe Biden. We're not ready for a non-white male to be president. This country does not want that yet.
Well, I mean, again, yeah, we don't want the non-white male. We're definitely not ready for the year of the women, I think, is clearly something that we're seeing. But out of all those names, who do you think, Chelsea?
Well, since they like white men, I guess let's give them Bernie Sanders.
That's true.
But I rather than focusing on okay, this is the field of presidential candidates, I'm actually looking at this is the field of the conversations that we're going to be having. I'm really excited about that because even though somebody like Tulsi Gabbard, very controversial,
right.
even among progressive, she's not. She's got terrible opinions on this, that, and the other. Okay, so
Tucker Carlson defended her, so obviously she must not be all bad.
All right,
case in point.
But even somebody like that who may have next to no chance in to become president, the conversations that we're going to have about some of the topics, healthcare or corruption, money in politics, that a number of these people care about, Elizabeth Warren, obviously, even Kamala Harris, I believe, is going to make for a great election season. And because at this point, I'm less focused on who's the one that I think is going to win. And I'm focused on what are the kinds of conversations, what are the changes in policy, how far are we going to move in one direction or the other. I know when we have a longer show, we'll probably get more into what do we think platforms are. And I have actually a new idea for what I believe the Democratic platform should be. But I am excited thus far by the field because there are several progressives. And so I believe that it will help pull the conversation to the left, or what I call the old middle.
I agree with you 1,000% on that.
Speaking of people who have an old middle, I would probably also go with Joe Biden. I don't think he's a strong candidate. I don't know that he would do well in a general election. But if one of these were to be president, I think the fact that people are familiar with him, they're like, oh, yeah, we remember him. Yeah. What do you remember about him? Oh, I don't know, but he's that guy, right? Yeah, he's good. He's good. Oh, I like that. I like that debate with Paul Ryan. I remember one thing. That was great. He made that face. Okay, great.
And he knows government better than anyone there out of that league.
Out of that, yeah,
senator
absolutely.
for 36 years, vice president for 8 years. So if you're talking experience, however, I think that it's time for something new. So personally, but I'm going to enjoy the shopping around, listening to the best ideas, watching the best ideas kind of float to the surface, and I'm very excited that it's already kind of starting in earnest. And I will also say Gillibrand just announced too earlier.
Oh, she did actually.
Officially
I was
as well.
I was
even
in a
though
lot of traffic, so I missed that.
another controversial person to some
Yes.
degree, but also has the most anti-Trump record out of the majority of the people that are running that have a record of voting in the Senate. So,
well, if you want to go
another
anti-Trump, why not vote for Marla Maples? Anyway, that's all I've got. We are out of time, but thanks so much to everyone who joined us in the chat. If you would like to follow me, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ. And this Thursday night at 10 Pacific, we will return with the second season of Star Trek Discovery right here at AfterBuzz at 10 Pacific, as I said. And Chelsea, where do people find you?
At Chelsea Glixia.
And Tamra.
Just Google me.
And Scott.
And you can find me calling Mitch McConnell an old hypocritical turtle, or using the emojis for Trump orange clown at SMAN80. That's SMAN80.
All right, thanks to the panel, and thanks everyone. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.